Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Coupeville School District Board of Directors regular meeting for Thursday, September 25th, 2025. Please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder, this meeting is recorded and available on the district's YouTube channel and website. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'd like to start our meeting with reading our district land acknowledgement statement, our district equity statement. And Director Pereira is going to read our land acknowledgement statement.
The Coupeville schools are located on the ancestral lands of the Lower Skagit people. For thousands of years, Coast Salish tribes have stewarded these lands, waterways, plants, and animals. We pay respect to the elders past, present, and emerging, for they hold the memories, traditions, and culture of their people across the nation. Coupeville schools are committed to educating students, staff, and the community about this long history as we honor and acknowledge the continued presence of the Swinomish Indian tribal community and all other Indigenous peoples.
Thank you. And I'd like to invite Director Merwine to read our Coupeville School District equity statement.
The Coupeville School District is unequivocally committed to providing a safe, equitable, and inclusive working and learning community for all, whether about race, religion, language, immigration status, culture, sexual orientation, gender identity, class, ability, or a combination of these. All students deserve to be respected for who they are and acknowledged for the strengths they bring to our learning community.
Thank you so much. This time, we're very excited to do the oath of office for our student board representatives, George Spear and Lindy Sylvester. We started this process over the last year, working on a policy for the district and then slowly working on a procedure. And then we opened the position up for applications, and these two wonderful, bright, shining candidates applied for the position. George is a senior at Coupeville High School this year, and Lindy is a junior at Coupeville High School this year. And so the way that we set these positions up is for George to serve out the remainder of his senior year, and then Lindy will be in a 2-year term of office. And so whenever next year we'll apply and have a shiny new junior, and she can mentor them in the role. And so we're so excited. So George, I'll start with you and have you join me in the front, and we'll do oath of office.
All right. Actually, I want you to put that.
Yeah, that's great.
You'll be able to hear it. Okay. All. Raise your right hand. Just repeat after me. I, and then you'll state your name. Do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of a student board member for the Coupeville School District Board of Directors.
I, George Spear, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of a student board member for the Coupeville School District Board of Directors.
I pledge to represent the interests of all students, uphold the values of equity, inclusion, and respect, and work to support an environment of academic excellence and well-being for every student in the district.
I pledge to represent the interests of all students, uphold the values of equity, inclusion, and respect, and work to support an environment of academic excellence and well-being for every student in this district.
I will make decisions based on the best interest of the student body, listen thoughtfully to my peers, and act with integrity and accountability in all matters concerning the educational system.
I will make decisions based on the best interests of the student body, listen thoughtfully to my peers, and act with integrity and accountability in all matters concerning the educational system.
I will comply with all applicable rules, laws, and regulations set forth by the state of Washington, the school district, and the board of directors, and will continually strive to ensure that my actions reflect the highest standard of ethical conduct.
I will comply with all applicable rules, laws, and regulations set forth by the state of Washington, the school district, and the board of directors, and will continually strive to ensure that my actions reflect the highest standard of ethical conduct.
I take this oath freely, and I am committed to serving to the best of my ability in the role of student.
I take this oath freely, and I am committed to serving to the best of my ability in the role of student board member.
Congratulations. Now I invite Lindy, so let's join me. I state your name, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of a student board member for the Coupeville School District Board of Directors.
I, Lindy Sylvester, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of a student board member for the Coupeville School District Board of Directors.
I pledge to represent the interests of all students, uphold the values of equity, inclusion, and respect, and work to support an environment of academic excellence and well-being for every student in this district.
I pledge to represent the interests of all students, uphold the values of equity, inclusion, and respect, and work to support an environment of academic excellence and well-being for every student.
I will make decisions based on the best interest of the student body, listen thoughtfully to my peers, and act with integrity and accountability in all matters concerning the educational system.
I will make decisions based on the best interests of the student body, listen thoughtfully to my peers, and act with integrity and accountability in all matters concerning education.
I will comply with all applicable rules, laws, and regulations set forth by the state of Washington, the school district, and the board of directors, and will continually strive to ensure that my actions reflect the highest standard of ethical conduct.
I will comply with all applicable rules, laws, and regulations set forth by the state of Washington, the school district, and the board of directors, and will continually strive to ensure that my actions reflect the highest standard of ethical conduct.
I take this oath freely, and I am committed to serving to the best of my ability in the role of student board member.
I take this oath freely, and I am committed to serving to the best of my ability in the role of student board member.
As mentioned during some of our previous meetings, our student board members will have an advisory vote during our voting process. And so it's a new process for me. So if I forget it, make sure you keep me on track. But we're so excited to have student voice in our decision makings, and I'm grateful that you're willing to serve in this role. Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Is there any item a board member wishes to remove from the consent agenda? Call for a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. And we are doing advisory votes for consent agenda, so a yay and a yay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is for public comment. Is there any public comment? No. Okay. No, that's okay. Sure. Moving on to our learning spotlight, which we are not going to do this evening, and we'll jump into our administrator reports, and I'll turn it over to Superintendent Leatherwood to introduce those.
Long consent agenda. There we go.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. And so I would like to introduce Principal McCall here. Yeah. Yep, there she is. I just didn't see you. I apologize. So we're going to start with Principal McCall, who's going to go through her strategic plan right now.
Thank you. I think last time I was up here, I said I was out of breath as if I ran, but I really did run today. The girls have their first home volleyball game, so it's going really well.
That's why I was wondering.
Yeah,
if
I
you were
snuck
there.
in. That's why you didn't see me. Good evening. For the board report tonight, we have our strategic plan and pillars that really align with what we're going to be talking about today, specifically focusing on student and staff well-being. So this slide is just an overview, the way I view this as the strategic plan review, accountability goals, and program evaluation are all under the umbrella of our school improvement plans. So we're not going to belabor the points on this, but just acknowledging that through the strategic plan review, accountability goals, and program evaluation, we have the end result of our school improvement plan, which we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. So our work ahead currently, we are in the review stage of creating our needs assessment through the WSIF, so Washington State Improvement Framework, and we'll look at some data points from that. So we're pulling information from WSIF, our state report card, TIDE, which is our SBA data, and iReady to create a needs assessment that will drive our school improvement plan. So through that process, we're continuing with our shared leadership at Coupeville Elementary School. We're running this through our building leadership team, which in turn disseminates that information to their grade level teams, reviewing our needs assessment, and again, ensuring that we have that collective efficacy of the goals that we're putting forth, we all believe in and can stand by. The end result will be developing our school improvement plan after our building leadership team and all staff have had an opportunity to review it and provide input. High level information, we're just going to go over kind of the bolded and underlined, but by looking at our WSIF and school report data, we can see that 62% of our students earned a score high enough to meet the state standard for their grade level in ELA. Only a very minimal 0.5% decrease from the previous school year. We're at the district levels at 61.8%. So we're right on par with our district level. Similarly for math, we had 62% of our students earned a score high enough to meet the state standard for their grade level. And this was an increase from 54% in the previous school year. And just to kind of toot our own horn, the district level is 42%. So we're doing pretty good at the elementary level. And then for our science, it's only 5th grade. So we had 84 students participate, and we are right on par with the district level at 54% of our students meeting standard. Super exciting news for us. Last year, our school improvement plan, one of our goals was on attendance rates. And this was absolutely a building-wide, rolling up our sleeves, all hands on deck approach to make sure that we improved our attendance rates from the previous year. So it not only was Miss Courtney Simpson-Pilgrim, Miss Ariana, Bridget Littlefield, and all of our teachers having intentional conversations with families during spring conferences was definitely new, sometimes uncomfortable, but we were bridging those gaps between our families that have high absenteeism. And we had an increase from 57% of our students with 90% attendance to 68.5%. So that is a huge shining spotlight for us this year. And we're just going to continue to build on that work that we know what we did last year worked, and we have ways to improve that even further for this year. Under our pillars for promoting student and staff well-being, as you know, we're almost officially a month into the school year. The honeymoon phase may or may not be wearing off just a little bit, but we're doing great. Our students are still awesome. We have a lot of our past promise is still going strong. So to really promote our staff well-being, we have staff t-shirts that we're all wearing this year. With the help of Director Kimmel, she put sensory bags together that some audience members also may or may not have benefited from. So our kickoff, not only at the district level, but then what we had day 2 at the site level, was really about bringing us together as a team. You know, we had that 30,000 foot view as a district and then bringing it into the building level. We tried to make it as fun and engaging as possible, but still getting to the meat and potatoes of our work. Yeah, I think that was it. And our learning spotlight is Miss Kylie Van Cleef. She's not here tonight because she has football practice. So it was like board meeting or football practice. But we really wanted to spotlight her because attendance was definitely a struggle last year. And she has really stepped it up and I think this year, due to illness, only has had to miss just 1 or 2 days. But every time she sees me, it's this cool 7 days in a row, 9 days in a row, and that high five and that positive momentum. So she knows she's being acknowledged tonight, but we really wanted to make sure that she knew her effort to get to school and be to school on time was being acknowledged. That's it. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate you sharing your plans for the future and how you're gonna, you're starting and then continuing to build on the plan with your staff. So
Yeah, absolutely.
thanks.
Thanks.
Great report. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring up our other two administrators who are going to co-present for the middle school and high school tonight.
Good evening, everyone. All right, so we'll go ahead and just jump in, and I think we're going to piggyback off of Principal McCall with quite a bit of this information. So we'll go ahead and kind of skip over this. Everything that we're doing here for our school improvement plan aligns with the pillars set forth by our district, and we're going through the same process in making sure that we are looking at strategic plan review, setting some accountability goals, and looking at our program evaluation as we build our school improvement plan for this upcoming year. We are going through a similar process, although we're in a slightly different spots into elementary. We are currently in the review stage, about to begin our needs assessment. We're currently looking at data with our staff and our staff meetings, both from SBA, and we'll be using iReady as well. We are building leadership teams within both the middle and high school levels. And we currently have a proposed school improvement plan in front of them for review at this time. And at that point, we will come back together as a staff and determine our final school improvement plan moving forward. So we have just to look back from last school year for the middle school, looking at the same bit of data here, we had a 59% scoring meeting high enough standard for their grade level in ELA. We had 39% math areas, and we had 51% in science. All of these were slight increases from the previous year, so we have some excellent plans to move forward and improve those scores. This is related to the SBAC data, but we're really going to dig into looking at iReady data, and particularly in coordination with our school improvement plan, because we have the opportunity to really offer these different types of diagnostics several times throughout the year and really start to see where kids are perhaps falling short and where we need to challenge.
And iReady goes through high school, or is that just middle school?
Traditionally, it's done only through middle school, but
Yeah.
we're going to be offering it for 9 and 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
grades 9 and 10.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I can speak just briefly to high school scores. Last year, our ELA scores at the high school level were in the 71st percentile, which was about a 10% increase. The math scores were in the 23rd percentile, which was about a 7% decrease. And our science scores were a little bit above about 61%, which was pretty steady. So we are definitely looking forward to the future and working with our teams on building our school improvement plans around improvement, specifically in reading and math. And also we're going to be focusing on belonging, which is something we started to survey and really take note of last year. And that information was shared with us over the summer. And we felt strongly that that also needed to be one of our categories in our school improvement plan.
So this is just the overview of our goals, which you can see very well here. So if you pick to the next slide, you can see our proposed goals that we have before staff currently. In grades 6 through 10, we're looking at 65% of our kids meeting or exceeding their annual typical growth rate or target in mathematics based on the iReady assessment. We're looking at, this is a movement from last year where we're looking at just overall scoring, and we're going to target moving forward individual student growth. So that we're actually really
we're really digging into the specific learning needs of students and seeing how much work they are achieving. And then again, reporting our instruction on that. Some proposed key performance indicators that we're looking forward is the implementation of the iReady growth targets, as well as doing some performance gaps, reducing those. So we're going to be targeting particular areas in that. So our plan here is to administer iReady Math 3 times per year, fall, winter, and spring. We are going to be providing professional development, as you know, on UDL using the iReady data to refine our differentiated math instruction. We're developing our tiered interventions through MTSS using UDL informed strategies, particularly geared towards mathematics, as you can see on this slide. We're going to monitor our effectiveness of our instructional practices and interventions using this progress monitoring through iReady. And then we'll utilize our PLC meetings and ERWs to analyze those results and evaluate and make changes as we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Goal 2. So at least 70% of our students in grades 6 to 10 will meet or exceed their annual typical growth target in reading on the iReady assessment. And it's really important we're highlighting growth. We're not looking at grade level standard. We're not looking at the end of year assessment. We're targeting growth because it's actionable. It's something our teachers can monitor, and we can use the information that we get from iReady to inform instruction and change throughout the year. If we just base what we're doing on the Smarter Balance, we don't get that information until our students are already gone and it's too late to make corrections. So we're focusing on growth, and this and the math are examples of that. We're also, again, going to disaggregate by subgroups. So when we looked at the Washington School Improvement Framework, it disaggregates data by subgroups, and we're looking at those same subgroups that are specific to Coupeville, so that we make sure when we're looking at growth rates for our students, we're disaggregating by populations of students who perhaps haven't performed as well as some other populations in the past, so that we can target development, our UDL, on making sure that we're increasing the accessibility to grade level content for all of our students. A few proposed key performance indicators: percentage of students meeting or exceeding growth targets, and also improvement in the subgroup performance that we were just talking about. Okay, so we're going to administer iReady reading 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. We're going to implement school-wide literacy strategies aligned again with UDL. We're going to continue to look at subgroup data in our PLC meetings, staff meetings, and we're going to utilize the UDL frameworks. Also delivered tiered reading interventions that incorporate UDL, flexible grouping, assistive technology, multimodal supports. We have a lot of work to do, and we also have staff that are keenly interested in digging into this work. So it's going to be an exciting year for the high school and the middle school.
Our last goal that we're going to propose for this year is related to our well-being and sense of belonging. So we are going to look at, by June 2026, at least 10% increase will be seen in students reporting positive perceptions of belonging, safety, and overall well-being on the Panorama Survey, which is something we'll be administering beginning of the year and again throughout the year, with results disaggregated by various subgroups so that we can target what we need to address within those groups. So we'll look at particular domains within that and then create plans based on that. And if we go to the next slide, we can look at some of our performance indicators here. Again, we're going to administer the Panorama Survey several times throughout the year. Look over those results within our staff meetings and our PLCs, using UDL principles to design equitable supports that meet the needs of our diverse students. We're going to implement school-wide SEL practices, social emotional learning practices that provide multiple ways for students to connect and engage and express themselves. We'll provide targeted supports for small groups or counseling, peer mentoring, different things like that, different UDL strategies as student choice, accessible materials, all of those different flexible participation options. And last but not least, deliver social emotional tiered interventions through MTSS that support our individual and their level specific or school. So we, in lieu of a spotlight, we wanted to talk through one of the biggest things we're focusing on this year and in well-being and sense of belonging is building community. So we wanted to highlight some of the things that we have done this year so far to build community. We started back at the beginning, before school started, before we had students here, we had a staff collaborative culture building day where we went to Fox Drive-In and spent the day doing some
Team building.
team building activities.
And
Yes.
racing go-karts.
Right, and so yes. Anyway, we hosted a family back to school night. We had a few community resources who came in to share the resources that are available for our students and families. And we were able to introduce ourselves and new staff, as well as have our parents and students have a taste of what middle school and high school is looking like. We had our very first middle school PEP assembly hosted by our middle school ASB, and it was a wonderful experience. They were so thrilled. They didn't know why they were there, and when they realized they were there to have fun and get excited, it was very welcomed. And so that was a good moment for them. We have also just announced our student of the month. This month was the Way of the Wolf, and students had been given different characteristics of the Way of the Wolf through our advisory program, and then teachers were given the opportunity to vote for students that best exemplify those different characteristics. And so we revealed those names today, and that was a great celebration. Additionally, our 8th graders are taking a Camp Grand trip. I'm sure you're aware, and they had a wonderful experience bonding. It was a great way to kick off the year and to establish relationships in community, particularly with our 8th grade students and with some of the staff that were able to go.
And homecoming week, so homecoming activities, we've had dress-up days, we've got an assembly tomorrow, and tomorrow night is our homecoming game, Saturday's our homecoming dance, so it's a big week for Coupeville High School, and the students are having a lot of fun. And I will let Ms. Kay speak to the last one because you actually took the students to this.
So I could
Don't miss the parade. Parade's at 4 p.m.
And
as well.
great, thank you,
Yes.
sorry.
And then a couple of weeks ago, I got to take the some of our top sports athletes to a league sportsmanship forum in Darrington, where they collaborated with other athletes from within our league and building ways of that we can promote sportsmanship not only within our schools but also amongst our teams. It was a really positive experience. Thank you.
Any questions? No? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that concludes our administrator reports for this evening. And next on our reports and communication is our business manager report.
All right, so this is the board report for September 25th. Go ahead. Again, probably the most applicable pillar is managing resources effectively. Of course, we have the vision and mission statement on here. Our values, typically this report will touch on accountability and transparency. Again, overall, we're just here focusing on the district goal. Go ahead. We do have some enrollment information. So this is as of September 2025. So we do have a September count in. So we thought this wasn't posted online ahead of time. So it is a handout in your board packet. There's some extra here too, if audience members want a handout of this. So go ahead to the next slide. Pass. Yeah, some extra ones around. I don't think there's enough for everybody, but it might be easier to see than on the screen. The short of it is what we have on the left-hand side is what we budgeted for. Budgeting based on a cohort survival ratio method on past trends. So there's some methodology behind where those budget numbers came from, but based on September count, If the column's red, it means that we are lower than what we budgeted for in that grade level. If it is green, it means we are above what we budgeted for in that grade level or in that program. ALE, you'll see, is green. And also fourth grade is green, but pretty much everything else that has come in our September enrollment is under what we budgeted for. So again, just highlighting the fact that the way the funding works, we do from September till December, we'll be getting revenue from OSPI from the state based on our budgeted figures. And then I will continue to track enrollment, because if we do continue month to month coming in under, we will get less money adjusted from January to the end of August.
I did want to insert just, there should be 3 more green areas. 8th grade is up,
Oh, good
10th
catch.
grade is up, and 12th grade is up.
Thank you. Yes, my color coding is off. Good catches. Yes. So there are some that are red, so there should be some more green on there. So we are up in certain grade levels. The bottom line, K-12 total, we are under, our actual numbers are about 45 students under what we budgeted for. So go ahead to the next slide. I was working on this. This is not September data, but I did want to pause and speak to this because we'll see the trends that we'll present next month with September data in here. But this is 24-25 actual enrollment. So if you look at the top line there, that's blue and black with the red dots, that was our actual enrollment by month for 24-25. And that green line at the bottom is what we budgeted for 24-25. So we, you know, some of the discussion of the budget committee and whatnot is those numbers at the top are, gosh, we were budgeting lower than what our actual enrollment was. And that cohort survival ratio method that we applied that looks at past trends, we essentially increased our budget enrollment for that. So, but really our actual numbers are coming in under. So if you would flip those in your mind, that is essentially what we're looking at for the upcoming year, meaning the green line is approximately where our actual numbers are coming in at. And if we were to follow the trends, you know, this year for 25-26, our actual numbers will probably be along that green line, whereas we are budgeted roughly, you know, where that top line is. So you'll see that a little more clearly as we go through the year, but it is something to be aware of, and we'll be tracking because it will have an impact.
And just a reminder to the board, we right now get apportionment based on our budget numbers through January, and then they adjust based on our actuals. So just as last year we got more money in January, we're looking at having to adjust if this trend is the same to receive less money from January to June. So we'll be planning for that.
Mm-hmm. So again, yeah, those were look at September enrollment numbers and where we ended up at August. This is August's financial end of the fiscal year, August, even though we're in September. This is the last month of August that we'll be looking at. So go ahead, next slide. And this is for the general fund. You can see our budget on the left, and then our actual for the year. We have a total ending fund balance of roughly $1.8 million, which did then come to meet that 6% fund balance board policy. So we did finish up strong last year with a fund balance. So that is good news. These aren't the final numbers. What I'll be working on between now and November is closing the books for the year end. So, you know, the final numbers will not be, more than likely not these exact numbers, but it's not going to change significantly as we close out the books. We're looking at roughly that same ending fund balance. So go ahead, next slide.
And it didn't look like we were over expenditures, like for the budget revision.
Yeah, I'll go speak to that in
Okay,
a
sorry.
slide. You're getting ahead of me a little bit, but yeah, exactly. We'll go there. Wanted to highlight this because now we have a full year. We did start investing, getting some interest earnings in our different funds. So you can see those totals for the year for the different funds. Of course, capital project funds, there's just more to invest there. So that's why it's the largest overall total, but we will continue to invest when we can to get some interest earnings in the different funds. Next slide. So back here now to looking at our expenditures for the year. You can see this is for general fund, our expenditures in the different programs there at a high level summary. There is posted on board docs a more detailed look at the programs if you want to see a more detailed look at the various programs that roll up into these categories. But this is a high level look. And you'll notice this is our original budget that is there, 18.8 million in expenditures, and actual for the year is at about 18,700,000 roughly. So to Morgan's point, this isn't, we did do a budget extension because it's still pretty close. I still could have some expenditures that we end up booking here. But it doesn't look like we're going to go over 18.8 million, but it would be close. That's why we did do the budget extension, just for that capacity in case it's something, who knows, somebody retired last minute that we didn't know about. So, but yeah, we won't really, we need to go into that budget extension that we did is what it looks like. Any other questions? Did I answer that question? Yeah, cool.
For fund balance wise, our average was 5%.
Throughout the whole year. Yeah, 12 month rolling. I'd have to calculate, but that sounds about right. Because yeah, there'll be some high months, but then there's also some low months.
We did have a low month that was at 3.
Yeah,
this year. So, but if we were to average it, yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we had another report, we had 10, but in reality, they're balancing out to
5%.
which is
Yeah.
a bad thing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Exactly. Except that you'll see that really the whole thing with cash flow too and a fund balance allows us to survive those spikes that we've highlighted in other board meetings. The revenue doesn't come in equally throughout the year. So we really have to, September is one of the lower months that we receive apportionment for. So, having a fund balance allows us to.
Director Sherman, I appreciate you bringing that up because I think it's really important, those low months that we're trying to maintain that average at a higher level so that we don't dip below.
So that was all the summary and look at the general funds. We do have the general fund. We do have our other funds. And those are listed here at a high level for the end of the year. Our beginning fund balance, revenues, expenditures, and then the ending fund balance. Debt service, really no debt. So we have no activity there. Then of course, capital projects, we continue to, even though a lot of the projects are done, we're paying retainage as those, we make sure everything's finalized. And so we're receiving a lot of the bills. So we'll continue to have some expenditures there. ASB will continue to be steady, but transportation vehicle fund is one of the main ones I wanted to point out. We do receive our depreciation payment from the state in August. So that's why we got some revenue that showed up there. And so we have an ending fund balance of roughly 223,000. We are looking at in the works of finding out quotes for a new propane bus for the upcoming year. So there will be a bus, enough there to purchase a bus here soon. And that concludes the report.
Any questions? Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Question? Why are you on there?
Did you have a question?
No. He just
Okay.
saw himself.
All right. Moving on to our next report, which is our superintendent report. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Leatherwood.
Thank you.
First of all, I did have to put George up there just because, you know, it is the first night with our student board reps. So I appreciate that. And he was highlighted in Coupeville sports. So I added him on here. Thank you all. I have redesigned our superintendent report to include my goals on there as well and where that falls and where that ties to our strategic plan so that you're able to see that correlation throughout the year and be able to review that. So the very first one is around pillar 2, which is connecting with the family and community. I down the center put all of our pillars because we'll be speaking with them or about them at different times. And this particular one ties to my goal standard 1 around leading a comprehensive data-driven review of our strategic plan. Part of that is going to be bringing our community together and working with them on a facility task force, but also bringing them in to discuss our strategic plan so that we have the key performance indicators, potentially a portrait of a graduate, and those pieces as we form this year. This is homecoming week. And I had the luxury of going through and seeing our pajama day on Monday. Tuesday, twin day, I saw a few twins out there, but not as many as I'd like because I think as they were entering, they weren't with their twin. So they probably saw them throughout the day a little bit more. I just wanted to point out that it's great to see not only our high school students participating in our Spirit Week, but our middle school students are also getting involved. Our parade is tomorrow at 4 p.m. And so we hope if you can all make it. I know Director Connor and I were standing by PC last year with the parade, and I'd like to see you all there if you can be there. And then it's followed by our game and then our wonderful dance on Saturday. So we're excited about that. We have the luxury to work with a group, Wanaha group, that is going to be facilitating our facilities task force. And our kickoff is on October 22nd, and that's a Wednesday night beginning at 5:30. And we have community members, staff members, parents, students, student board reps who are going to be part of that committee. And it is a committee that is going to be looking at the state of our facilities district-wide and making recommendations, looking at and making recommendations for the future of Coupeville. So they really are going to be looking at the entire district, potentially looking at what we may need for a bond in the future. I would think there would be an elementary on there and some other things, but this task force will be really doing a deep dive. They've committed for a year, once a month for the year, and they'll be doing some difficult work, but also going through every single facility and previewing it, looking at it, and seeing what the state of our entire district is before they make recommendations to the board and myself around what they like to see for the future. We're very excited to work with Wanaha. They're very organized. They have everything laid out so that for sure, you know, every member is going to get something out of that as far as feeling like their voice is heard and ensuring that all of our students are represented in that. Additionally, communications, you're going to see our communications around not only our task force work, but our district work is going to be at a higher level this year. We have some plans in place to ensure that not only do we have social media, but our newsletters and other means for communication is going to be beefed up so that we are reaching more of our community around what are we doing on the day-to-day. And so I put some pictures up here. This was one of my favorite days as an administrator was the first day of kindergarten. And I have to say, Coupeville Elementary started with bubbles and just welcoming those kindergartners for the first day. And it was amazing. They had tables out there. They really, when you talk about sense of belonging, I don't think there would be a family that would have left and not feeling that sense of belonging. Which leads to the second piece, which is where everyone belongs at our middle school. And I have heard nothing but wonderful things. And I know Katya's in the audience and she's one of the coordinators for that. It has transformed our students' transition from 5th to 6th grade. The being able to be there on a day when there's not the pressures of other grade levels being there has been, I think, instrumental in what we're seeing from those students and how much they already feel like they own and they're part of our middle school. So that's very much appreciated. Second one that it goes into is around ensuring excellent instruction. And we utilize the Professional Education Standards Board, who really directs the work that we're doing around the frameworks that we choose in the state of Washington and how they tie to the state 8 criteria that we evaluate staff on. And I'm really excited that we this summer did work with our Coupeville Education Association to begin piloting the Danielson framework and look at that framework and really do a deep dive, because the framework's not about evaluating teachers. It's more about coaching and best practices in teaching. And so we're very excited. We're beginning to roll that out with administrators right now. And then administrators are beginning to roll that out with their staff. We had decided in the 25-26 school year that all teachers on comprehensive will be on the Danielson framework. And then the following year, it will be all teachers on comprehensive and focused evaluations on the framework. So our administrators are dipping their toes in 2 different frameworks this year, Marzano and Danielson, just to kind of ease it in. And then we'll be fully implemented next school year with both. We also, last week, we had I'm going to say the pleasure of going into Deb Sherman's 5th grade classroom. And the purpose of this was to calibrate our administrators on the framework. And so we went in, we did a walkthrough, and we had a walkthrough tool based on the Danielson framework. And we just were targeting instruction. So that's domain 3 of the framework. And our administrators went in, collected data, and then we score that data on a rubric. And it's the first time in my career that all 3 administrators were dead on their scores. Usually what the state says is it's okay to calibrate and they're 1 score off. It's just not okay for 2. We were all like right on. So we really shout out for Deb Sherman and her classroom. Absolutely amazing things happening in there, and we're very excited. Our goal is to bring some of this to the board when we do our walkthroughs, so that you'll have one piece of the framework to kind of look at as we go through. It's exciting work, and we're really excited. And then the last piece is the iReady assessment. We're going to have a universal launch, which means all of our students will be assessed during the same window, so that it's not apples to oranges where elementary has this window and then our middle school has a different window. All of our students are going to be within that same window. So when we're looking at growth data, we're looking at students who are on grade level. We want them to at least grow a year in a year, right? With growth data, with students who are behind, we're looking at the measures that iReady says we should be seeing at least that year and a half to try to catch them up. And that's when it helps support, and we're able to break down that data to see what can we do and how can we intervene to get them there. And so we're very excited about that launch, but I didn't put a check mark around a few of those things because we're still working on the professional development and the data dive because we haven't given those assessments, but that's something that we'll be looking forward to in the future. So now I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about our school district community levy coming up, and what will go into that levy and what decisions we need to make as a board moving forward. As you know, and are aware that we have 2 replacement levies that will be coming up in February of next year, this school year, but February 2026. The first is the capital technology levy, and the second one is the EPNO. And I want to describe a little bit about what those are about and then what are the decisions that we need to look at. And then I'm going to finally go over what the timeline is that we have. So as we know, our community, prior to even myself being on the board, they came together and they set the priorities for our strategic plan. And in that strategic plan, we have our 5 pillars, and we have our values and sense of belonging. And they said, this is what we want to see for the future of our schools. And that really ties directly to our levy and the purpose of our levy. And so I'm going to describe a little bit of that connection and how it ties to our strategic plan. One, these are our dollars at work. So these are our levy dollars at work. A lot of what we see in Coupeville happening with sports clubs, activities, music, those are all supported by levy dollars. Many of you know, but not always do everyone realize that the state does not give any dollars to athletics. They do not give dollars to music programs. There's certain things that they do fund, and then there's other things that they do not. So we're going to describe that as well. Why are levies important? About 77% of our state funding, of our budget comes from state funding. So they support us and provide us with about 77% of our funding. Another 7% comes from federal, and then the remaining 16% comes from local dollars. That could be local foundation grants and things like that, but a lot of that comes from the levy. And so that 16%, if we did not have these levies, we would not have that, about 16% of our current funding. And I put an equal sign around, that's what ties to our strategic plan. The things that are in our strategic plan really help our support our students in all areas. And without that 16%, I don't know what we would be doing as far as hitting those key areas of our pillars. So levies, levy uses in general, they support resources for academic programs. They can enhance student learning opportunities, support teacher development, so professional development, and what we provide for teachers on an ongoing basis. They also help to fill the gap between what the state provides for staffing and what we pay for staffing. And so a lot of times those local levy dollars fill that gap between what the state gives us and what we actually pay for staffing costs. Those staffing costs also go for lower class sizes and provide also social and emotional support and can fill gaps for mental health resources and things like that the state doesn't necessarily fully fund. Also, a big portion of our levies come from strengthening our athletics programs. Not all of the money comes from our levy, but some of that money, a great portion of that money does come from our levy. Providing equipment, coaching, fostering that teamwork, making sure that we have that physical health among our students. And then another portion or a bucket of that levy goes towards investing in the arts and helping students support that creative expression and also leadership through music, theater, or visual arts. And many, when you're looking at this in Coupeville, you might be saying, well, we don't have some of those things. And so that's a decision that we need to come up against and say, what do we want for our levy that's coming up in February to ensure that we provide for what we say we want to provide for voters. And so what does that look like here in Coupeville? In Coupeville, up across the top, I put down things that we currently support in our levy with our dollars. And so we do have a portion of our materials. We do have additional staff that we're paying for and ensuring that we have above that prototypical model, which is what the state funds us for. Safety, we have technology, we are a one-to-one, and the replacement of technology comes from that levy. We have some arts, we have music, and we have art in the high school, but we don't have a comprehensive arts program here. We have curriculum, But many pieces right now in our curriculum budget are just going for to keep up. We don't necessarily have this rotation that is ensuring that we're keeping up with the standards at a regular basis. And then also we support music, the sports, supplies, and operating costs. And as we know, operating costs have gone up a lot over the past few years. Our levy that we're currently running on, we ran at a flat rate. And so what that meant was $2.7 million we went out for 4 years ago, and we're still collecting the 2.7. We did not increase that. And sometimes that's okay. But when we had the inflation that we've had over the last 4 years, it has actually hurt us. And that's why we've seen staffing cuts and some other cuts to our budget, because our levy was not an increased amount over the years. So another thing I'd like the board to consider is increasing over the years to keep up with inflation. So we're not making substantial cuts to our budget, bringing something back and then going up, inflation went up. So now in the 4th year, we're cutting again. I'd really like to plan for the future and ensure that we're looking at that piece. Down across the bottom on the next piece is what we would like to see in yellow for this next levy, which would add to what we already do at the top, but it would increase support. And we would like to see mental health and social emotional support increased in our district. We know after COVID, mental health and social emotional support has been needed, and it continues to be a need in our district, and we would love to be able to support that at an increased level. We would also like to increase staff. I put on there, bring back band. We would like to see our arts and increase staff in all of our levels. So teachers, support staff, and ensuring that we are supporting our students at a level that we don't feel like we're just hanging on, right? We would like to see coaches be brought up to speed with surrounding coaches and what their wages are. I know that they took a decrease a few years ago as well because of the levy being more stagnant, but we would like to see that also be at a more competitive rate. We would like to ensure that we have guaranteed and viable curriculum. At the elementary school, we are piloting a new curriculum, but prior to this pilot, the elementary school last adoption of a reading curriculum was from it. The curriculum itself was published in 2010. And in this day and age, that is well overdue. There's been a lot of changes to state standards during that time, and the expectation, and a lot of research on the science of reading that supports a different way of teaching than what we have currently. Thankfully, right now we are piloting new curriculums, but we'd like to do that in many other areas in our district. We'd also like to ensure that we have more offerings for our students. As all of you know, when I came on, one of the charges was to look at what are we offering our high school students and how can we keep our high school students here instead of going off to other districts when they get there because they offer more. And so what we would love to put into this levy is also the ability to increase some of our offerings at the middle and high school for career and college readiness. So this shows, and all of you have seen this, but I wanted to ensure this was also out to those of you in the audience. This is a slide that just talks about our historical tax rate. And so when you look in 2016, we were collecting, this is always off of a rate per 1,000 assessed property value. So we were collecting $3.13. Of that, the EP&O levy is that light gray at the top. Dark gray was the tech levy. Those are what we are going to be looking at as a replacement levy coming up in 26. At that time, we had a capital projects levy, which is in red. We no longer have a capital project levy, so we do not have that currently. And then in black was the bond levy, and we no longer have a bond. And so when you look across our tax rates from 2016, you can see that we continue to have a decrease in our tax rates. Right now we're at 80 cents. but the 80 cents is right now just for our 2 levies that we would like to go out for. So just a kind of high level view of what we've done over the years. When we look at comparing districts in the area, we are at the bottom of collection, other than one district that is, I can't remember which one it is now. But it
Very small.
actually is probably not one that would be in comparison to ours, because it's not one that we have the same equivalency of the assessed values. And then when you look at the in the state, what we're compared to, we're also at the lower end of all of the districts as far as our tax collection. So one of the things that I wanted to point out is a lot of times our taxpayers get confused about our tax bill and what's on our tax bill. And so there's 2 things that are on our tax bills. One's local levy and the other is state school tax. And so I just wanted to point out that the top one, which is the school district 204 enrichment, that is what we would consider our levy for the Coupeville School District. That's what provides us with the opportunity to make the changes that we want to make to programming and the things I mentioned on the previous slides. And so that goes directly to us, and we prioritize based on what our community said and our strategic plan. Whereas the state school and state school part 2, that's state controlled, and that's allocated for basic education, but the state controls where that goes and how much that goes to each school district. A lot of times when taxpayers are looking at these items, they think that those are all going to Coupeville School District, and I just want to make sure that we know the difference on that. So on the next one, we're looking at the levy timeline overview. And we also have a levy page on our website, and I encourage you all to ensure, people take a look at that levy page. It's going to continue to have more and more on it, but this slide shows on there currently. This is the timeline for us, and right now we need to make a decision as a board. What are we going to go out for? How much are we going to go out for? Once we know that, I obtain an OSPI approval. I would like to have that done pretty soon. I don't want to wait till the last minute in October, but that's something that we'll discuss if we have a special meeting to look at approving that. We also need to consider adoption of a resolution before that October 30th a date as well, which is our next board meeting. Part of what we are required to do in the state of Washington is to appoint a for and against committee for our voter pamphlet. And so we'll be seeking that, and I'll be doing a communication that will go out to the community around that. And then I will be appointing those will go directly in the pamphlet. So there'll be a for and an against statements for that purpose. Again, that's before that October, November time. We submit to the county no later than December 12th, but my goal is before that. And then our election date will be February 10th. And I have the wrong year on there, 26. We'll correct that. I did want to say, if anyone would like to be on the for or against committee, who's in the audience or at home listening, please submit an email to myself, and you just let me know that you might be interested, or if you want more information, and I will email that. So what can we do? Share information, tell people to get on our website, look at levy information. Once we know more about our specifics on what we're going to be asking for, that will also go out, and it'll be factual, so it'll be on our website. Ask questions. We want to ensure people ask questions. If they don't understand their tax bill, we can help point them where they can find out information. And then the biggest thing is, don't forget to vote. Questions?
I have one that kind of goes to our enrollment.
Yeah.
How much we can get on a levy is determined by our enrollment. Like this year. So is that the district, you know, that's the district total that we're looking at on what Brian gave us there that we used, or is that
Yeah, I'd have to.
K-12 total? Or?
That's the K-12
That's the
total
K-12.
without ALE and those because those will be in next month's.
Yeah, exactly. Without the running start is on the October, somewhere on the October, they start on a 10-month average count.
Yeah.
I'd have to look in the specifics of something on my list, but when you run a levy wet enrollment, like you're saying, is a key part. What are they, you know, are they looking at COA open doors, for instance, included in that enrollment average?
Yeah, I mean, there's one number that's going to be used. And,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll look at that and bring that information to the probably special meeting or workshop.
I do have one other kind of trivia thing.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have to take up the meeting time, but I noticed on my assessment, they've got it messed up how they've got the bond money labeled. On mine, it says that the bond, I mean, this is this year's property tax, and it says the bond, I'm paying $72. CP Tech, I'm paying nothing. And then the enrichment levy, I'm paying $394. So in other words,
The county.
the bond and the CP Tech levy are switched. And if anybody looks at, they won't, before the election, I doubt these will be out. Well, maybe, I'm not sure when they come out. So could be confused by looking at what they're this year's.
Because they will think they have it on. Huh.
That's something that it's interesting to hear it on the statement. I think it was last year, mid-year, we contacted the county. They went through a software conversion and they did initially have, it was the previous thing, like you're saying, because that service funds bond, they had switched with their programming in the conversion to the tech levy. They had those two funds. They have since corrected that. I know that we went through that and
But we may need to call them and say they didn't
but
correct it
yeah,
on
on
this
the
end.
statements, yeah,
Because
it's
they corrected
interesting.
on our end and where we get the money.
And I actually checked mine at the workshop and mine was fine. So
Interesting.
yeah.
I wonder if it's in.
Okay.
Well,
That's
I know
interesting.
it depends on the taxing district you're in for all the other
That's true.
things
Right.
too.
Yeah,
So I don't know how individually they have
that's
to
true.
do that. But
But you know, you
good
probably
to know
notify
about.
the county too, for your situation too. Send a copy to the county and let them know so they can look into it.
Thank you for the report. I know we've talked about the levy at our workshop. Obviously, we didn't decide on a number going forward, and we have a bit of a timeline, so we probably will be scheduling some type of special meeting to make a decision around this, seeing as our timeline's getting tight. So we'll work something out and coordinate that.
Can I make a quick comment?
Of course, yes.
I just, like I said at the workshop, I'm really feeling like the budget committee gave us the sense that our community is willing to step up and help support our students a little bit more strongly than we had been. Something that I kind of wanted to wrap my head around as we've been talking numbers was this idea of like, what is the minimum and what's the maximum according to our enrollment that we're able to ask? And what would that look like towards our community? And so if we had any, we could look at that tool, or if we had any like sample numbers along with, I'm enthusiastic to support what the district is bringing us as the need, but just for my own purposes, kind of seeing what that looks like and the scale of possibility.
Can you send that to us?
Yeah, I've made a Google Share Drive. I think I
What's
shared
in
it. It's not in there yet, but that's where I'm gonna put it
Okay.
and share it out is what I was in the works. I will make sure to get it in there and share it out.
Okay. That'd be great.
Thank you.
You shared information too at our workshop about comparable tax rates in the area. I think that needs to be out, pretty much out front, so that people can see not only what's happened in the last 10 years, but also how we rate with other schools in our area or our size. Just think the more they can see that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No, thank you so much. All right, we'll move on. You're finished, right? Okay, we'll move on to board member reports, and we'll start down at the end with you, Director Sherman.
I have no report today.
Okay.
Director Merwine here. I did attend the General Assembly last Saturday,
Yeah.
and it was virtual. So, as the report would be that everything that you saw, whatever the recommendation was, for either pass or do not pass on the resolutions, went that way except for one. There was one from Lake Washington, you may remember, about asking the legislature to fund curriculum about climate science, environmental science. That one actually got voted down. I think there was, I don't know whether there was some feeling that maybe that's too controversial a subject for the legislature to dictate, or there was some feeling about, oh, we just got to be back to basics. But in any case, that one didn't pass. Did you get in, does anybody know, check your email today, get a note from WASA about the prioritization of the legislative priorities? You didn't let me know. It's the time of year now that in General Assembly, we know exactly what our past priorities are. We're asked every year to prioritize what our top 10 is as a board. So I'll forward the email I got in case you didn't, but we only get one board vote. So just let me know what your top 10 are, and I'll compile that and make something that'll represent us. And it's not, you don't have to rank them from 1 to 10. It's just what the top ones are. It just gives some guidance to our lobbyists about what things they want to emphasize. And also, I will be arranging meetings with, I've met with Dave Paul, but with our other two legislatures as they're beginning to now gear up for the legislative short session coming up. So if you have anything particular you want me to, I have a couple things that represent what we're thinking about. But if you have anything particular you would like to brought up, let me know. And I think that's about the report. Oh, is the game time 6 or 7 tomorrow? It is 7. Your slide was 6, so it is 7.
It was 6 last time, so that's why it got messed up.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Because they were coming from Leavenworth. So
Oh, that's
yeah. Okay, Director Pereira, thank you.
Let's see. So our budget committee, Nancy and I have met. We have a game plan going forward for continuing to work on our scope and purpose of our subcommittee in terms of maybe giving some feedback on the reporting, maybe looking at what's out there today, and how that fits our board's expectation, and renewing our cycle of reviews. We'll have more or less established a new cycle for reviewing policies with our new workshop and board meeting schedule. I'm sure we'll get together about that soon. And on a personal note, I have gotten to resume coaching robotics. Our middle schoolers are up and running. It's looking like we'll have 2 teams this year because we have about 12 kids. They are super enthusiastic. They're great kids. Our 6th graders are really confident, and I'm seeing a difference. And they're telling me that they absolutely love the fact that they're getting robotics in class. And in fact, our high schoolers are envious that they don't get to go back and do that. So just some of those opportunities, and the fact that we do have a high school robotic team this year has been great. It's growing steadily, and I think we're going to have a competitive robot by the time we get to our November competition. Fun times.
I don't have anything to add to what she had to say.
Well, sorry,
we have more to
I always
come.
get there first. You always have it more organized.
We'll have more to report. As I mentioned, I had the opportunity to speak at a panel with the League of Women Voters last weekend with Clyde Shavers and the school president from Oak Harbor and South Woodby, and all 3 of our island superintendents attended. It was a small turnout, but it was good. You know, I think just looking at school funding is challenging and trying to help our community members make sense of it. I think was good, and to share some of the unique struggles within each of our districts, of course. But you know, I always leave those, and I don't want us to end on a sad note of, you know, the challenges of funding, and you know, we're doing the best we can and the most we can for our kids with what we have, which can be frustrating at times, but I feel like everyone is, they're working with what they have, so it was good. I love seeing all the sports back in action. I love seeing the kids everywhere. I've been able to volunteer at the middle and high school lunches, and that is so fun. And I hope they keep having me back. It's so good to be with the kids. I mean, that's why I ever wanted to do this position. And so it's fun to see them and hear all of their silly things. I got invited to be the photographer for homecoming this weekend, and so I get more kid time, which is my favorite. So you guys are going, wear your nice clothes. Excited, yes. And I think that's the gist of my report. We'll be probably scheduling a special meeting to talk about levy, but yeah. All right, and we have a new item on our agenda, which is our student board rep report. And we've talked a lot about this, you know, in the past when we had a student board rep, it was like a PowerPoint presentation with things going on at school. And we're really shifting kind of the focus, I think, for our student board reps to really develop the role into something that's meaningful for them. And we don't really feel like maybe making a PowerPoint presentation is the most meaningful thing for you. And so this will be a regular item on the agenda to just share right now about, you know, anything you want. So we'll just start with you, Lindy, if you have anything.
I mainly just want to talk about recently started back up, like as Mr. said, the water club, like I started. I'm part of the high school water club, so we really take care of the children a whole lot. I do everything the practice robot, the actual robot. It appears to our level and Leo's club, I'm also part of that up. Our first meeting was last Thursday, pretty much. And we'll start we volunteers.
Thank you.
I think Lindy summed it up really well, but to add on to that, I'm glad to see athletics back in full swing, especially cross country. Just a little bit of bias.
I also do want to quickly add that I haven't signed up for the Wild Network, so hopefully I'll be able to do that. But the first meeting is on the 29th, so hopefully I'll be able to attend and but hopefully I'll be able to talk it all just
Is that an evening meeting? Do they do that?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
I just wanted to add on to what you said, and for the first time this year, both of you will be attending the WASDA conference with us in Seattle, and we're very, very excited to have you join us in that 3 days, 2 days, 3 days. So yeah, we're very excited about that.
And I've already been connecting with some of the other board presidents about connecting the other student reps on the island, hopefully at the WASDA conference, so that you can meet them and we can kind of do some networking.
Have some beers.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just wanted to, Lindy, you reminded me that I forgot to say that these clubs and all the other enriching clubs out there would not be possible without faculty advisors. So thank them so much for stepping up, and they're doing us.
Great. And that concludes our report. We had 2 correspondents over the last month. We had one email from a parent at the start of the year with concerns about large class sizes and asking about a plan to address the issue. And then we had another correspondence from a parent regarding the impacts of schedule changes on their students and concerns with the academic rigor of certain courses. Those have all had replies. We do not have any old business for our meeting this evening, and we have a very long list of new business items. So before we jump into the beginning of our policies, I just did want to explain. So the policy, WASDA has changed their policy language. So we used to have essential policies, and now we have critical. And the definition that accompanies a critical policy indicates that there's a state or a federal mandate in place. So that's a critical policy. An important policy has no mandate, but there is case law. And a discretionary policy indicates that there's no mandate or case law exists. So legal liability is negligible. So I just wanted to explain that before we get into the policy, since the language around the policies has changed. We had the opportunity to talk about all of these at our workshop last month. We even had a student presenter, which was so meaningful, speak to our policy under item B, which is around service animals in school. And that was really special to all of us to see the way that policy can impact people's learning. So these two policies I feel like are great to start with and to approve together. So the first reading of policy 2029, which is about animals as part of the instructional program. So this is a new policy to our district, and this is discretionary. So again, that's no mandate or case law exists. However, we have had animals as part of the instructional program in our district and feel like this policy is fitting. The second policy, which is a first reading of 2030 regarding service animals in school. So this is a new Coupeville School District policy, and it's important. So again, that has no mandate, but there is case law around it. Any comments, questions?
I would move to approve policies 2029 and 2030 for first reading.
Second motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve policy 2029 and policy 2030 for first reading. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to be sure to move these because I think that the workshop discussion was so interesting and useful and really underscored the fact that in a school district, policies, especially some of these discretionary ones, are the ones that aren't like super strictly mandated, or that there's already federal laws in place, but they're so educational. You know, they help the students were able to articulate why this is important. We were able to learn from them. So I am just glad to have this in our district.
It was a really good learning experience, the presentation the student did and staff. And frankly, I'm embarrassed that we haven't had this policy in place. Glad to vote for it tonight.
Hearing no other discussion, I'll ask for an advisory vote from our student reps.
I second that.
2 yays. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And then the next grouping of policies would be, actually a singular policy is 3241. And this policy is around student discipline. This is an update of language, and this is a critical policy to WASDA. It has undergone several language changes over the past several years, and this is yet another one clarifying some language around discipline and some of our practices. So again, this will be going to the discipline committee and working on the procedure. But your motion?
I'll move to approve policy 3241 for first reading.
A second motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve policy 3241 for first reading. Is there any discussion? ask for an advisory vote from our student reps.
I second that one again.
2 yays. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And then the next grouping of policies is 6700, 6701, and 6702. So these three policies are an untangling of our current 6700. Obviously, from many years ago, several of our policies were lumped into one, and we are moving back to the WASDA model policy language. And so we're separating out these three. The first one is nutrition. There is an update of language, and this is a critical WASDA policy. Obviously, as mentioned, getting untangled. 6701 is about recess and physical activity. So this is another new policy, although our language, we did have language around this in 6700. This is another critical WASDA policy. And then 6702, which is a wellness policy, and this is also new. But I think some of the language around the wellness committee was part of 6700. So this is a breaking apart of our old policy and adoption of some new ones. Is there a motion?
I could move it. To approve policies 6700, 6701, and 6702 for first reading.
It's been moved and seconded to approve policy 6700, 6701, and 6702 for first reading. Is there any discussion?
I guess I just wanted to point out that the untangling process is sometimes tedious, but being able to identify updates in the future is going to be very helpful. And then on top of that, just adopting a model policy isn't exactly what we're always doing. We are definitely reviewing and ensuring that this is right for our district. And all of these really are things that I think that we support.
And have been reviewed by our staff who directly are impacted by these things. So yeah. Any other discussion? I'll ask for an advisory vote from our student reps.
I think that these are great.
2 yays. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right. And next is approval of resolution 2025-10. And this is public access to school district records. Let's speak to that. And yeah, so the language in this resolution aligns with our policy.
Yeah, so mainly there are records requests that can come to the district. One being records requests that can be a blanket records request in that they can ask for records indefinitely. This limits that for us to where records requests cannot go back indefinitely. And we know of a few districts where some of the records requests most recently have been all of the records in the district office, and it's taken a substantial amount of time. This helps us limit dates and be more specific on these requests so that we do not have a huge amount of dates to go back on, but also limits what they can ask in that records request so that it's manageable for our staff.
I was pleased to see this resolution. I am a big supporter of public access to records, but I also think that the request has to be reasonable. And I think that this provides some sideboards to that. I'll move to approve resolution 2025-10.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2025-10. Any discussion?
Well, I did want to point out that we currently have a policy that
Yes.
says pretty much this. And it seems like the resolution is just a means of strengthening it with
The other thing that the resolution does is if somebody comes in, we're able to give them a copy of that resolution. Yeah, instead of looking up and copying the policy. So it's been suggested that districts go to this as far as handling that. So that's, we're within our scope.
Yeah.
Have it right there, ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this aligns with policy 4040, that says a resolution can be formally declared by the board. And so this is just the formality of that, in my opinion. Any other discussion? Call for an advisory vote from our student board reps.
Sounds good as well.
2 yeas. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And then next is approval of resolution 2025-11, which is surplus of a school bus.
Yeah, so as buses flow off of depreciation, there is upkeep and things if we do not end up surplusing a bus. We have a bus currently that needs to be surplus to get it off of our costs. It's not, we do not use it. We don't get much for the buses, but there is this requirement to have the resolution so that we can surplus it.
Yeah, this is the first step, I would say, and then after their state does require, after the resolution's approved, for Rob to turn over some information to the state too, and there'll be a memo, follow-up memo, ensure that all happens.
Great. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution 2025-11.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2025-11. Any discussion?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Is this necessary anytime the school bus needs to be surplus?
Yeah, not just a bus or anything that's purchased with public funds in general, whether it's textbooks, equipment, chairs.
Computers.
Yeah, just surplus process.
So our equipment can't go mysteriously missing. It actually gets tracked from purchase to exit.
Anything of value.
Yeah.
Anything of value.
Yeah.
Surplus.
It's a great question. Yeah. Any other discussion? I'll call for an advisory vote from our student reps.
I agree.
2 yeas. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next is approval of resolution 2025-12, National Filipino American History Month. And I'll turn it over to Superintendent Leatherwood to introduce our speakers.
I'd like to call up Reagan Green and Jocelyn McCall, who are wonderful middle school students, and they're just getting back from a volleyball game. And so they raced over here to read this resolution to all.
Proclaiming October 2025 as Filipino American History Month, whereas in 2009 the United States Congress and in 2019 the state of Washington officially recognized October as Filipino American History Month, and
whereas the earliest documented evidence of Filipinos in the continental United States occurred on October 18, 1587, when mariners called Luzons Indios landed in Morro Bay, California, marking over 435 years of Filipino presence in America, and
whereas Filipino Americans are the second largest Asian group in the nation, with Washington State home to more than 185,000 Filipino Americans, and
whereas Filipino Americans have made significant contributions to American society, including 9 Medal of Honor recipients and labor leaders like Larry Idalong, who played integral roles in the farm workers movement alongside Cesar Chavez, and
whereas celebrating Filipino American History Month provides educational opportunities for students to learn about diverse American experiences and the rich heritage of Filipino Americans contributes, and
whereas the Coupeville School District is committed to inclusive education that honors all communities.
now, therefore, it will be resolved that the Coupeville School District Board of Directors hereby proclaim October 2025 as Filipino American History Month and encourages students, staff, and community members to honor Filipino American history and culture, though through education activities and community engagements.
Adopted by the Board of Directors of Coupeville District Number 204, Island County, Washington, at a regular meeting thereof held on September 25th, 2025.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
both. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd move to approve resolution 2025-12, approve National Filipino American History Month.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2025-12, National Filipino American History Month. Is there any discussion? Yeah.
Great job on the resolution.
Again, this, supports our equity statement, that all students are valued within our community and brings strengths to our learning community. And so it's an honor to approve these resolutions each month and to recognize the strengths of our students. So thank you. Hearing no more discussion, I'll ask for an advisory vote from our student reps.
I agree. That does sound great.
2 yeas. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval of our U.S. Department of Defense construction grant agreement. And we're very excited about this and wanted to put this on new business so that we could share how awesome it is.
All right. So I'm going to go through the purpose of this grant. It's called the Noise Mitigation Grant through the Department of Defense. Back in, I would say early last year, January, February, we caught wind that Oak Harbor was actually a recipient of the first round of these grants. And so in my monthly meetings with the CEO and Oak Harbor, we started talking about how we potentially could capitalize on this if there was another opportunity. And we weren't sure at that time if there was, but we soon found out that they actually in the first round had some money left, and so they reopened it. The reopening of this grant caused quite a bit of scrambling on Director Gianello, Director Losi, and myself's part to put together a very comprehensive grant that took us months and many, many days, but we're going to go through what this means. So the noise mitigation grant, it's really centered around the jets that many of us hear flying over our community, but in particular around our school. We know that when students learn, they learn best when there's not the noise levels that some of the jets are having for our schools during, key learning times. And so the noise mitigation program is a competitive grant. It's designed to assist state, local, and tribal entities impacted by military fixed wing aviation noise. And we have that noise, but we actually would not have been able to apply for the first grant because we were just outside of the parameters for the first one. We were lucky that they extended those parameters and only part of our schools were able to capitalize. So I'll talk about that. The program itself is authorized under the Appropriations Act of 2022, and it allows for noise mitigation installation at covered facilities, including the installation of air conditioning. And so we thought, we do not have air conditioning in many of our schools, but could we use it? Yes, we could. And so we thought part of this is mitigating the noise so that we can shut windows, doors, and still have a good environment for students to learn. In the state of Washington, there are certain months where we have to have our windows open because it gets rather warm. And so this allows for installation of air conditioning as well as windows, doors, and other things to reduce the noise that we hear outside from the jets. The first competition under this program was concluded in December of 2024. Oak Harbor School District did receive funds under that, and we hoped to continue that. So eligibility, this was a big piece that we had to look at, and there was actually several webinars that I went to where they weren't real sure whether or not our other schools would qualify or not. So we put some of our schools into the grant and had to later find out that we did not qualify in that. So what they said was the schools or the installation where we're talking about, which we're talking about our schools, had to be located within the 1 mile of a military installation or another location which military aircraft were stationed, or within a day-night average sound level of 25 decibels or greater. We are not 1 mile. We actually are just outside 1 mile, but we did qualify under the sound level of greater than 65 decibels. We also had to be located in an area impacted by military aviation noise. We know that we qualified under that. 1 mile of a military installation or another location which military aircraft are stationed, or within a day-night average sound level of 65 decibels, which is why we could apply for this. So on the next slide, I put on there kind of the map in which they determined this. And so when you look at the green, the light green, which is the third from the left, and the blue star, that is where our middle school, high school fall, that close to the green. On the other side of that green line is the district office and the gym. That's how close we were from not making it. It actually cut our district office off at this corner. And so I said, so it counts? And they're like, no. We were trying to get, because we still house students in this office, we were trying to get our students that are housed here as part of the grant, but they said, no, there wasn't enough of the district office within that. And then our elementary school does not fit in this as well. So if we zoom into this, you can see even on the map, it says the middle school, high school is on the outside of it, but that's the gym. The star is where we're at. You can kind of see where Prairie Center is there and where that falls. But again, they said the district office wasn't part of it. So going into the next one, this was the process that we went through. The applications, so think about this, the applications opened on May 27th of this year. We had a pre-application that was due by July 8th of this year. In between May 27th and July 8th, we had to get a comprehensive budget application and everything written to say, here's how much things will cost. Here's how much it will be to do all new windows, doors, air conditioning, roof, siding, and some other details, and have that in by July 8th. But we could not get hard numbers on that because we couldn't do like an RFQ because we didn't have a bid. So we put in our application, our pre-application, and turned it in July 8th with all of those pieces in. And they then looked over the application. They actually called me a couple times in July to say, hey, the gym's out, district's office is out. I need you to rewrite this and not include those, but look at these differences. So on August 11th, they awarded us the opportunity to apply. Not that we got it, but now we can actually apply, which the first pre-application was what I felt would be pretty much applying, but it was not. So at that point, from August 11th to September 8th, we had to actually do a more specific budget. Again, not with an RFQ because we could not go out for a bid. We had to go down to how many doors, how many windows, what the cost of doors, windows, insulation, air conditioning for the middle school, high school would cost. We also had to add in Buy America, Build America, which adds, raises the costs. We had to consider tariffs. We had to consider engineering, design, all of the permitting. So we had to,
200,
the
CFR 200.
CFR 200, which gives us all of the federal compliance pieces. And we had to have that in a pretty bow. We had a project manager from the Department of Defense that met with Brian and I on a weekly, daily basis at one point. And we were here at 7 a.m. rewriting, working, trying to become construction people without having that as a background. So, but the good news is we were able to apply and meet the deadline just in the nick of time on September 8th. And then they were looking at awarding grants by September 19th. And on the next slide, on September 19th, the Office of Local Defense Community awarded us a grant. And in that second competition, we were able to, actually I'm one slide ahead. I'm sorry, I skipped this slide. I didn't hide it, sorry. We were able to receive $9 million in a federal grant to redo our middle school, high school, and add air conditioning to the middle school side. The reason why we could not add air conditioning to the high school side is it would have gone up over what we could budget. We could have gotten the grant for it, but in this grant, you have to match 10%. And we had $1 million that we could match. And the reason why we have $1 million is from our capital projects levy. We have $1 million that was going towards HVAC system in the middle school to replace the HVAC system anyway. So that ended up, our $1 million for the HVAC system is now going to give us $9 million over the two schools. And so on the high school side, all windows, they will be triple pane windows, doors that will also help reduce noise mitigation. But most of the work's going to be going to our middle school. We have a south end, south end of our middle school where we have brick siding right now that has been it's been problematic since I can go back very, very far and it's been problematic. But it also lets in a lot of noise. And so we'll be taking down that brick. We'll be putting back up a noise mitigation, insulation, and providing siding for that area, and all windows, doors. But it's going to be a huge project over 3 years. And we have to really ensure that we stay in budget and ensure that we have what it takes to get it complete on time, because the timeline is also very, very important. So where did the funds come from? I already mentioned the funds are from our HVAC system. We will be putting $1 million towards it. If we come under budget, then we also will come under budget for that $1 million, and that will go for other things. And so, and this is just a list of what it's going to do. So it's one of the things that was the most difficult, and and that's why we were down to the wire. We almost could not submit the grant, was because Build America, Buy America, at least 55% of components have to be shown that they come from America. And heat pumps right now are really difficult to find. And so we're still going to really have to ensure that we meet compliance, because that would end up being on the district cost. So we're not going to move, through this without ensuring that everything's above par and follows all of the Department of Defense regulations, which are many. So the work is still to come. And this was a lot of, I know Director Gianello and my summer, but we're really, really excited for what this is going to give to our community, because I feel like if we are going out for a bond in the future, this is something where we're not saying, and we need this for the middle, and we need this for the high. This is really going to take care of a lot of our needs at the middle school and our high school. They are encouraging us. If the board feels that, you know, there is more money down the road, they feel strongly that if there was another award to come out, that we should be going for air conditioning in the high school as well. But that was just something that she expressed to me. It's not that we would get it, but I know that we would be able to apply if we needed to. Any questions?
Heard you mention roof. Is there any roofing?
There's not. Originally, there was roofing, this building and the high school, but those got taken off early on. So those are still going to be needs in the future for the district, but they were not part of what we could do this time.
So I'm assuming probably one of the first steps is we're going to go out and hire a project manager for all of it.
Yeah, so I have a meeting in October, week after next, where Department of Defense is coming here to do a NEPA evaluation. We have to get a NEPA evaluation. Don't ask me what it is exactly. It's environmental, and we have to get a clearance. Once we have clearance from that, which I'm told NAS will help us with, then we can go out for an RFQ to get a project manager, construction manager, design, all of that going. And that will be pretty quick, November, when we'll be starting on getting this rolling. It is, again, a 3-year process. And so, but it's going to be really what I'm going to call hands-on, because if we make mistakes around Build America, Buy America, we could be liable ultimately if we don't follow those. So it is, you know, really strongly encouraged that we're very much hands-on. Brian and I are the only ones that can make decisions on the Department of Defense level and system for that reason, so that we're overseeing this from the beginning to the end. But yes.
Any other? Yeah.
So I wrote into the grant that construction that's going to interfere with learning is going to happen during breaks in summer. So that's why it's a 3-year timeline, is making sure that it's not going to interrupt. There are some things they can do while students are there, but minimal, so that the pieces that have to be done outside will be done outside. Great question.
Any other questions?
When will we begin to see the effect of this?
I anticipate either next summer or into next fall, winter.
Well, in a very short time frame, you assembled a huge application, and this is a big, significant savings and energy reduction device and dealing with jet noise. I'd like to move to accept the construction grant agreement from the U.S. Department of Defense, and thank you, Brian, very much for your work.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the construction grant agreement from the U.S. Department of Defense. Is there any discussion?
Thanks from me too, from everybody who worked on this. Huge lift. And it's going to be great for our students. And like Nancy mentioned with the energy savings, I feel like that's also really important to note, that we had this deadline coming up for having more energy efficient schools. And so it's a double whammy.
I did fail to put that on here. That is something that we have to be in compliance by in 2027. There will be a way that we can show what we're going to be doing to meet that. Our high school already met that. Our middle school did not, but barely. So this will for sure meet that energy compliance. And then our gym already met it. So, and then our elementary has not and will not.
We'll meet compliance, but we'll also save energy, which is ongoing.
there's a lot of things in the air right now. And I know it took a lot of your summer and a lot of work to put this package together. Um, it it is a significant savings to our community to be able to upgrade our facilities, and all of these things serve a purpose of supporting our students in the classroom, but they're critical components to that. And so it's tricky because they require so much attention, and we really want to focus on this one thing, but like all of the parts and pieces of the educational system are valuable to supporting our kids. And so thank you for the work. It's a lot. All right, hearing no other discussion, I'll ask for an advisory vote from our student board reps.
I know I was from the judge for lost my vote during the test, things like that.
I'm definitely all for a grant from the Department of Defense. So
2 yays. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And last item on the agenda is approval of the Coupeville Education Support Association collective bargaining agreement, which is a 2-year agreement from September of 2025 through the end of August 2027. As mentioned, when we approved Superintendent Leatherwood's contract and the other contracts last month, I feel it important to share with our community the financial side of our collective bargaining agreements. And while there were a variety of changes made to the contract, the pay changes are as follows. So unlike the CEA pay scale, which steps up consistently with each step, the CESA negotiated pay scale has variations of step increase from the earlier to the staff who are further up on the pay scale. So they will receive their step increases and then also receive the Washington State implicit price deflator, that's the tongue twister, which for the 25-26 year is an additional 2.5%. And as I mentioned, this is a 2-year agreement, and then the second year of the agreement is all of the things discussed plus an additional percentage. Obviously, our resources are limited, which makes bargaining difficult. Again, that's not a win or loss for the union or for the district, but again, it's about making sure that our students win. And as a district, we remain committed to working alongside our classified staff toward our goal of preparing students for their future through providing a strong educational foundation. So thank you for the work that went into all of the bargaining, to all of our unions and to our staff this summer. I know that that's a lot.
I would move to approve the CESA collective bargaining agreement for September 1st of 2025 through August 31st of 2027.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the collective bargaining agreement of the Coupeville Education Support Association for 2025 through 2027. Is there any discussion?
I just wanted to be sure to say, I think I said when we approved the CEA agreement, that it's just so important that we do have this collective bargaining process and be able to go through it and make sure that everybody gets heard and everybody's needs get met, so that we have a really, hopefully collaborative workplace. And I'm grateful for all the work that the unions and the staff did.
Any other discussion? I'll ask for an advisory vote from our student board reps.
I agree.
2 yays. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And that concludes our long list of new business. Thank you for joining us, and we wish you all a happy start to the school year. We are adjourned.